Hello and welcome to the Rhythm Changes podcast. I'm your host, Will Chernoff, and this episode is sponsored by the free weekly email at rhythmchanges.ca. I send it out every Tuesday morning. Hundreds of people use it to follow this week's upcoming gigs on the gig list at Rhythm Changes that I produce for you every month, and to get a great artist, event, or recording featured every week that they can enjoy and share. If you haven't signed up yet, sign up for the free weekly email at rhythmchanges.ca.
I had to make myself go. I was an adult student at the time, and I cowered up to the admissions office and was like, "Hi, I'm just a prospective student looking for some." And she stopped me right there. She said, "You're not just a prospective student. You are a prospective student."
Welcome back to the show. I just had a phenomenal weekend at IronFest presented by Coastal Jazz. Today's episode features one of the 4 artists whom I got to introduce at IronFest. So first of all, thank you very much to Coastal Jazz for giving me the opportunity to do that. I enjoyed hearing all 4 of these shows, but this band in particular, we're talking to one of the 3 musicians from it today, are about to go on and do more. So that is coming up next. Our guest today is a composer, pianist, and improviser who just played at Ironworks and at 8 East as 1/3 of the group Beatings Are in the Body, with Erika Angell on vocals and electronics and Peggy Lee on cello. The group will play 3 more times coming up real soon. They're all on Vancouver Island, though. November 1st at the Vault in Nanaimo. November 2nd at the Orange Light in Victoria. Those are both with fellow Vancouver group Sick Boss. And November 4th and 5th at the Woodstove Festival in Cumberland. You can get Beatings Are in the Body's self-titled album now through Bandcamp on digital, CD, or LP. So please welcome to the Rhythm Changes podcast, Róisín Adams.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for coming. So you had a big weekend.
Yeah, lots of fun.
I saw you for a good chunk of it, which was really nice.
Sure was.
The one that I missed, it was also the most recent one. We could start there. There was also a visual element to your group's album, and you premiered that at 8 East last night.
That's right.
How'd it go?
It was awesome. It was very intimate and fun. We had Prosecco, and we were being hosted at 8 East by Jesus Caballero,
Nice.
Josh Zubat, and Lisa Miller. And it was just lovely to find a home to introduce Melissa Hubert's amazing work to the world. It's a 16-minute short film composed of 4 of our tracks from our album. And Melissa wove them together like a seamstress using animation, wit, and raw materials. It was quite the feat. It's just very incredible to share that with everybody.
Yeah, so is Melissa a visual artist, a director, or all of the above? Or
Yeah, in this project, yes. She's our visual video collaborator. And she's a Jill of all trades, and she's also a musician and artist, poet. You'd get an idea if you had a conversation with her. She's wonderful.
Yeah, because I remember from this year's Jazz Fest that she collaborated also adding visuals to a musical project, and it was Ron Samworth's The Etiquette of Dying.
That's correct.
Yeah. Did you catch that one?
I was out of town with this group, Beatings Are in the Body, but I would have been there for sure.
Okay, that's the exact timing of when. So where were you with this group at that time during that Jazz Fest weekend?
Montreal,
nice.
Toronto, Hamilton, Kingston. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, because Erika's in Montreal, right?
That's
Based
right.
in Montreal. Yeah. That's why when you were up there at Ironworks on the Friday night, it was like, oh, it's so cool to be together because, yeah, you're not all based in the same place, right?
Definitely.
Makes it more special. But you were playing shows out east during that like second Jazz Fest weekend.
That's right. Yeah. Jazz Fest is a very like a religious holiday in my world. I don't book anything during that time, and I just zip from show to show, try to egotistically get 5 or 6 shows in on one day, which you can do during the festival. It's the most magical time of the year.
Yeah, I really learned my lesson this year. next year I'm going to try and book off as much work and other stuff as possible. That's all I'm going to say.
Rookie mistake.
Yeah, very, very, very much so. Very, very much so. Yeah. I really enjoyed hearing you on the Friday night this is what Coastal Jazz calls IronFest, 2-nighter at Ironworks. There were 4 concerts. You were the first. You were the early show on the Friday night, and then you stuck around for the late show that night too, and then you were around also for the late show on Saturday. But let's just focus on your performance on that Friday. So what was your feeling? What was your roller coaster ride of how that went for you? Just talk me through Friday night for you guys.
Honestly, it feels easy with that group. Everything feels easy, even
Nice.
the like multitude of emails leading up to something that we do like months after we conceive of the idea of coming together. When we get to play music together, we just are together and it feels great. We have the music written, and it still felt fresh from the summertime when we had a chance to play it a few times in a row. And yeah, it just feels awesome just to even be able to look at each other, see each other's faces on stage, and breathe together and sing together. And you know, when we rehearse, we just kind of like once through everything and save the magic for the stage. And it's great just to see what comes out.
Yeah. Speaking of breathe together, you got the audience to breathe together with you at one point.
Sure did. Well, hopefully they're always breathing together.
Yes, hopefully, indeed. It's like you created the soundscape there live in the room that you might put onto a recording as like an ambient thing or a field recording thing. It's like you just created it by asking and directing the audience to breathe, right? So that was nice.
Yeah, thanks.
I wasn't sure to what extent the live show would resemble the album. And I would say it resembled the album quite a bit. It resembled the album more than I thought. You played the tunes from the album. But if you think about like Tim Byrne, of course, improviser, legendary American improviser who played after you with his ensemble, like it didn't have any resemblance to his group's album at all. It was because his group's album was just an improvised thing, and then he went on and played. But I appreciated that about your set too, was that it matched what I heard and what I enjoyed from the album, you know?
Great. Yeah. We like to play with expectations. So if you're expecting the unexpected, surprise.
Well, you shared like a stories promo thing clip for Coastal where you were talking, you had these cool sunglasses on and there were some things in there that I thought really, Matt, it would have set somebody up well if they paid attention to that, because you said bring a tissue and an open heart. That gives you an idea of what kind of music you're in for, right? So I appreciated that. You also said, this was something that you said in that video that I noted down because I thought it was a really interesting breakdown of the group's name, which comes from the poet Megan McNeely, who you brought up on stage to shout out and who wrote the poetry that ends up being the lyrics of several of the tracks, right? And did the album art.
Yes, that's true.
You said, the body stores experiences, emotions, traumas, and the transformational efforts that are needed to extricate them. And then you also said on stage that you mentioned you were thinking about like the three of you and Erika and Peggy were thinking about like which areas of your body hurt and such, and comparing that and feeling where you were each at. And it was like there's a very physical inspiration behind the music, right?
Definitely.
Yeah. So what happens then from there? Like talk more about the beginning of how the music came together, knowing that. Yeah,
so as Erika stated on stage, we started as a blind artist date, I should say. Cole Schmidt put us together for this show at the Wise Hall under the auspices of the Sawdust Collector. And because there was so much lead time, because there was a grant involved, and Cole reached out to us with lots of time ahead of the show, Erika and I decided just to make the most of it and make something together. And we could have just showed up and improvised and had a great time, and that would have been okay as well.
I'm sure it would have sounded awesome.
But because there was so much time, we hadn't met each other before. It was kind of neat just to be like, "Hello, my name is Róisín Adams. what have you been thinking about lately? And we settled on this theme after kind of like brainstorming a bunch of other ones. This kind of seemed like the theme that resonated the most with both of us. And from there, I mentioned the poetry of Megan to her. And we used that as like source material. One of our first collaborative pieces was used like a deepness. It was a poem from that chat book that I referenced. And then I would send her sound bites. Oh, here's a composition, and Erika would add melody and vocals and poetry of her own to it. And the collaboration just started there. And eventually we brought in Peggy before our first show. And that brought a whole other element as well.
So the first show was the Sawdust Collector show.
That's right.
So that was in 2018?
Yes.
Yeah, so it's five or so years ago. Yeah. So this discussion with Erika where you were envisioning the group, this was like in 2018. Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Nice. So, and then I'm pretty sure you also played not only at Ironworks itself before, but then you also played with the group at the Jazz Fest before at some point in those intervening years, right?
That's right. Yeah. We played at the Performance Center at the Roundhouse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then how do you get to the album from there? So now you have Peggy involved. The group, it feels like Peggy would have always been there. It's interesting that started with you too, but you're all such a natural fit together.
Yeah. I mean, we didn't, we never performed without Peggy. So
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and never will. The recording happened during the pandemic. We were lucky recipients of a Canada Council grant and a Creative BC grant. It kind of blew our minds when we got it because we were asking for the whole kit and caboodle. We wanted to do an LP release, and that's no small feat, especially when everyone's writing their magnus opus during the pandemic. And so we're really lucky to go forward with that project. And that happened in 2021.
When you received the grant in 2021?
Yeah, well, we recorded it in the summer of 2021.
Nice. Yeah. Oh, I still get stuff pitched all the time where it says X began as a pandemic project. Yeah, in late 2023. Still happening, still coming. Yeah, so the treasure trove is still being unlocked.
Definitely.
Yeah, well, congrats on getting the funding at what seems like the perfect time, because like you had started the project a while ago. So it's not like a brand new thing that you have to spin up from scratch. It's like something that you already wanted to develop, right? So that's really cool timing.
Yeah, it was great timing for us. Yeah, we were really, really grateful.
Yeah, and then probably after you recorded that album, then you ended up playing at the Jazz Fest like that year or the next year or something like that?
Yeah, that's right.
Nice. And then you end up here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's really cool timing. I haven't heard another group quite like this, the blend of the improvisation, the songs. You have split the composition of all the music amongst the three of you. I know which tracks you're credited on as the composer. Two of the ones that you're credited on, they're actually like the tracks that are two songs within the same track, I believe. That's right, yeah. So there's Like a Deepness, Let Go. That's one of the tracks that has two pieces contained within the same track, right? Mm-hmm. And then is it 5.5 Prayer? Is that what you would say for that name? Yeah. 5.5 Prayer and Tree. Those are two of the tracks that it says you were a composer of. And I would imagine that the other half or the other side of that would come from Erika writing the melody or the poetry from Megan. So how does it break down? What did you contribute to those 2x2 track situations?
The first one would be Let Go. Mm-hmm. And that's the latter of the two.
That's where it breaks into tempo and you're leading it on the piano, right?
That's right. Yeah. And the second one's 5.5 Prayer. That's the breathing piece that we were talking about earlier. Yeah.
And then you are also credited for Dog Moon, which that has some of Megan's poetry as lyrics, right? As well. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then you and Erika both credited on Her Hands. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. There was one other thing I turned up, at least on the Bandcamp notes. I actually should have checked this on the actual album liner notes itself. But there's one track that it doesn't say who composed it.
Oh,
it is Rainbow.
Oh, that's Erika's.
Okay,
Yeah.
nice. Yeah. That's probably my favorite track too. That's
That's
the
a
one where
beautiful
it's like that
track.
simple kind of pentatonic thing that you all play together that just keeps like rising and repeating and stuff.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you know that album, Pharoah Sanders, Floating Points in the London
I
Symphony
love
Orchestra? Floating
it.
Points. That sounds like Floating Points.
That's my go-to bath
Promises.
album. Thank
That
you.
track sounds like that.
Yeah, what a compliment.
You know what I mean, right? Like they have the motif
Yeah.
that keeps repeating and repeating. Yeah.
Oh,
When I
love
put that
it.
on, I was like, oh yeah, that sounds like that.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. And then yeah, so it's really cool that you all seemed so comfortable together when you got up on stage, even though Erika was coming in from Montreal, and you played that show and to a good house, to a great number of people there in Ironworks. Then you stuck around and you took in most of the rest of IronFest as well. How was that for you? What else did you enjoy from the weekend?
Oh, it was spectacular. I there's only one group that I didn't get a chance to see, and I'm like kicking myself because I saw some footage of it. So it was so cool.
Oh yeah, Josh Cole's kind mind. Hey, don't believe me. We can't see it all. That's no shame. That's how it goes.
I know. But yeah, the trio after us, Timber and Aurora and Hank, were just incredible. Oh my gosh, wow. The instrumentation alone brought up so many curious moments where you were just wondering, where did that sound come from? And does it even matter? But the blending and just the state of consciousness that they all seem to be in. Like at some point towards the end, you could just see Tim almost like pacing back and forth in place and kind of motioning his instrument to his lips. And you just had this feeling of being really live in the moment and not knowing, and them not knowing what's going to happen next, but really coming in from it with an intuitive sense and really feeling something before and while they're playing it. It was magical.
He also stuffed a water bottle in the bell of his alto saxophone.
I saw that. Yeah. Cool effect.
Yeah. Aurora Neeland. Wow. Very cool. She brought on stage a clarinet, accordion, which was the thing that she played the most often. And she also sang into the mic too, as part of the improvisation, just like spontaneously, which yeah, you don't see that very often.
It was gorgeous. Yeah. I loved the accordion, especially because it's kind of an unusual instrument in this scenario. It's really cool to have it front row center
Yeah.
on display. And she did some really cool techniques, which I don't even know are considered extended techniques, but there was one point where she was bouncing it on her knee and making this really cool undulating, almost like electronic sounding effect.
Yeah. It was like the most dramatic thing, like the highest dynamic stuff almost came out of the accordion. Like, and she, like, the only time when I like jumped up out of my seat was like one time when she busted out something really loud on the accordion. It was cool.
Oh yeah. Yeah. The dynamic range.
Yeah. And then of course we got to hear Craig Taborn on Saturday night. That was really special.
So incredible.
That was the only time the entire 2 nights that I was nervous was when I had to introduce him.
Oh my gosh, you did great. I was not envious of your position there, but you did a wonderful job.
Thanks. I knew everybody else, even though you and we basically just met this weekend, but like I knew who you were, and I / knew everybody else except for him. So yeah, it was interesting.
Oh, it was awesome. Yeah. What an incredible show. The solo piano thing is such a thing, right? And it was one of those concerts where you're like, is he improvising everything, or is this like a really chiseled out, composed piece? But he revealed later on in the show that he improvised everything except the encore that he played, which I'm sure had a healthy dose of improvisation as well. Yeah.
Well, you're almost the perfect person to ask about that because you have a classically trained piano background, you are a composer, and you're also an improviser, and so you would perceive that on like such a high level compared to like 99% of people. So it must be really interesting for you to hear, like, it's almost like what he was doing, you'd say it's like spontaneous composition, which like you, because of how nuanced your view of it would be, you could probably say, oh, that's different from improvisation, that's like a different skill, or that's like a different approach, right?
I love it when it's hard to tell. And it was very validating to kind of see some of the approaches that I apply being lived out in such a grandiose way.
Is it terrifying to watch him as a piano player yourself?
Oh, it's very enjoyable to watch from the audience perspective, from an anonymous point of view, for sure. It's terrifying to like go up to somebody like that after the show and be like, "Hi, I'm a fan."
Yeah. And like, I haven't listened to the vast majority of his catalog. He's got like much more straightforward stuff that he's played as a side person with other people too. In addition to like 2 solo piano albums and being able to do that, he can do anything. It's
incredible. I didn't know what to expect. And I was surprised to hear so much, almost like a minimalist classical approach to improvisation. A lot of like iterative repetitions, but evolutions of repetition as well. And oh my God, the tone.
Oh yeah, the piano sounded awesome. Room sounded awesome.
I asked 3 pianists at the show. I was like, what was he doing with his feet? How did he get that muted half sustained sound? That sounded like a totally different instrument.
I know what you're talking about. Because that would be like the sostenuto pedal, right? But it wasn't just that. It would have been something else.
I don't know what he did.
Wise.
I almost climbed on the table to see.
Well, I couldn't see anything. All I could see was his head over the opening of the piano, because I was sitting like by the door towards the washrooms and stuff. So I didn't see his hands at all while he was playing. So I probably missed out on some cool stuff because of that. But yeah, I didn't see his hands at all.
Well, you got to get yourself situated so you can see 4 hands instead of 2.
Yeah.
Get the reflection in there.
It was very funny. At the end, he goes off. He gets the standing O. He's out in the other room. I am figuring out what's going to happen next. I'm going to the stage. I'm picking up the mic. I'm pretty sure there's going to be an encore because everybody's still standing and everybody's still clapping. So I encourage you all to clap some more. Then he comes out and I start getting off the stage because it seems pretty clear to me that he is going up to take the stage for the encore. I didn't have a conversation with him or anything. I just said, "Oh, it's nice to meet you," etc. at the front of it. So I get down the steps and he comes up to me. We're off mic at this point. There's nobody on the stage. Everybody's still clapping. He looks at me and he goes, "What do you think? Do they want another one?" And I'm like, "Oh, what do I say? Like, I don't want to make him mad. Like, if he doesn't want, is this him like not wanting to do it? Like, is he looking for an out or something?" I didn't know what to say. I just reacted instantly. I was like, "I think so." And then he's like, "Okay, great." And then he gets up on stage and he plays that encore thing. So that went fine, but
you did good. You did good. We did want more.
Yeah, I wanted to make sure that we got more because I wanted some as well. Yeah, and that was after he played for like over an hour.
That's true.
Yeah.
And how fantastic was his ending?
Yeah. Oh, like I know what you're talking about. Yeah, I told Vez about this today. It was like where as he played the last note, like he stood up. He stood up from his chair, like dramatically looked at everybody.
The whole time it was very stoic and pianist-like, I guess.
Yeah.
And he jumped to his feet after he played the last bombastic chord. It was great.
Yeah. That was so fun. So you are headed to Vancouver Island.
That's right.
As the day this comes out, you'll be headed there tomorrow. So that's real exciting. These places... Orange Light is not a place I'm familiar with. Vault I've played at before. Woodstove Festival I've played at before in 2018. It was wonderful times.
Awesome.
I'll start there. Have you been to Cumberland? Have you played there?
I've been to Cumberland. I did a short residency at Weird Church a couple of years ago during the pandemic. But I haven't been to this festival before. And it was my first time hearing about it. And just talking to a few of my pals, a lot of them are playing at this festival, so it's going to be a hoot and lots of really good music. That's a stacked menu of different kinds of music you can take in.
Yeah. Oh, I think you're gonna have a blast. We played there in 2018 with my old folk band, and we stayed at somebody's place. There were other bands staying in the place. The doors to the house were unlocked the whole time. We never saw the people who lived in the house or whatever. It was just the bands coming into the ground floor, kind of like my suite here where we're talking right now, and crashing at the end of the night and waking up and stuff. And that was just like somebody's house, like a walk away from the main drag of Cumberland. And yeah, it was a fantastic weekend. So
I love that.
Yeah, no, you'll have a great time. And then the Sick Boss double bill shows in Nanaimo and Victoria. That'll be good times too. Those would be like your people you've known for a long time in this community too. The folks of Sick Boss, Cole
And
obviously being one of them. Yeah.
my favorite local band.
Yeah.
I'm telling everyone this story, but they have these stickers. It's of this cute. Maybe it's not that cute. Maybe it looks aggressive. It's of a dog, and it says "Sick Boss" on it. And I've been sending out these stickers in the mail to my friends who live all over. I have lots of pen pals around the world, and eventually, months or years later, I'll go visit them, and I'll see the sticker on their wall or whatever. And I'll be like, "Hey, you like Sick Boss too? I love that band. How did you hear of them?" They're like, "Hey, you got me that sticker." But no, they're definitely one of my favorite groovy, improv-tastic groups coming out of Vancouver.
I am gonna be at their release show at the Ironworks. You gonna be there too?
I'm actually going to still be on the island, picking up Erika and Peggy in Nanaimo and heading up to Cumberland the next day.
Right. So you're not coming back. You're going to be on the island for like almost a week.
Somebody's got to.
The thing about the stickers and mailing the stickers, that's a decent operation. And that plus some of the other stuff you told me about the grants and things, it makes me suspect that either you are the ringleader of the mechanical side behind Beatings Are in the Body, or you are at least a major part of that. Is that true? Are you the person behind the scenes who is doing a lot of the admin for that group and such?
Yeah, I mean, we all share pretty collaboratively. It really feels like a true collaboration. We all just chip in what we can, and I think de facto, because I'm the youngest member, I'm the social media coordinator, and who wants to be on social media all the time. Things like that. So we just kind of like step into a role that could benefit us all. Yeah.
So you worked on the grant. Was Peggy involved at that time? You and Erika work on the grant together? Three of you work on it together?
Yes. And we had some help with from Amelie as well.
Oh, awesome.
A wonderful manager who consulted with us and helped us edit down and remove and add words. And I got to say, though, Erika is an incredible writer, not just with poetry and lyrics. She has a way with words, and English is her second or third language. It's incredible. True. It just blows me away. Yeah.
Yeah, that's super impressive. Yeah, when you throw that in, or just in general. Yeah. I think there's also a lot of other projects that you've done in recent years that I could also ask you about. There's at least one that has something big coming up too in the next little while. You have a trio with James Meger and Dan Gaucher.
Lucky me.
You played a Frankie's Late Show with them much earlier this year, like almost a year ago. And you're playing at Jazz at the Bolt with them as one of the weird children of Jazz at the Bolt, not the cellar music artists and such. But that will be really interesting. I hope to hear you there. I don't know what that group sounds like at all. I didn't get to go to your Frankie's Late Show. What is this trio like?
Well, I'm incredibly lucky to be playing with James and Dan. Beyond being my friends, they're just incredible players. They're, I think, some of the best players, and not that it's a competition or anything, but I just feel incredibly lucky to be playing with them. And the thing is, you can throw anything at them and they will make a groove hard, and they will add their own inflections, and you can they're just so in the music and practiced, and but also free. It's wonderful. It's so liberating. So a lot of the things that we do together, well, in this trio, is we just kind of explore compositions that I'm interested in, and they are too. For example, like Alice Coltrane, and Chris Davis,
Nice.
Sakamoto we're gonna look at. And my interests are so all over the place. Like I love early jazz. I love contemporary classical compositions. I love like the straight ahead, like Wayne Shorter kind of style as well. So it's a bit of a mixed bag. And I think I'm going to try to do at least one or two vocal elements at the Bolt as well. But I'm always this is a great series. I'm very honored to be asked to perform here, and it's always a pleasure to play a beautiful piano in a room to an audience every time.
Yeah. So it's not an all original thing. There's other repertoire that you're bringing in there, like the artist that you just mentioned. So is it also some of your original music in there too?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
We'll bring in some bangers.
What, just in the context of that group, because in general it could be anything. Like what is your original music like? Like what does it pull from out of those things? All of those things at different times, or is there anything else you would point to about like if somebody's going to go to that and they're going to hear your original music there? Like what's it going to come out of? What do you think?
Great question. It's a kind of a combination of my own interests and I would say personality. It's kind of hard to hide when you're writing from the heart.
Yeah.
One piece called Rumble is very imaginative, like West Side Story, like this side versus that side. Rumble in the Bronx kind of a setting, and it's it was written while I was in jazz school, and it was meant to bring out. I wrote a whole album of pieces just to explore with approaches to free improvisation. So in this particular piece, it's quite literal. You're like fighting with one another. So there's going to be in the trio format, it'll be like drums versus piano and bass versus drums.
Okay.
And we kind of trade off on the bass line a little bit and keep it going. It's pretty lively, that tune. But yeah, it's I guess what can I say? It's like my compositions are kind of like a reflection of my experiences and my interests and the things that I'm trying to work on and be better at. Same with and that goes for like being a better human as well. So it goes pretty deep.
Yeah. You went to VCC, right?
That's right.
Yeah. What was it like? How was your time there?
Oh my gosh, it was the best.
That's great to hear. That would be fun for you to talk about.
Oh my gosh, I loved it. And the best faculty ever. It felt like everybody sat down at the same table and thought and talked about how to present the material in different ways. And there was such a great feeling there. I like to tell this story because I had to make myself go because I was an adult student at the time, and I definitely didn't want to introduce any level of competition to my playing because I knew that wouldn't be good for me. And although I know it's good for some people, it's no judgment, but I just kind of knew that competitive spirit wasn't for me.
Uh-huh.
And I cowered up to the admissions office, and on the other side was Jody Van Brunt. She's the amazing administrator there, and I was like, "Hi, I'm just a prospective student looking for some." And she stopped me right there. She said, "You're not just a prospective student. You are a prospective student." And I'm pretty sure it was that phrase and that confidence that made me decide to go.
That's awesome.
It was a big family. Jody learned everybody's name and brought everybody together. It was like a big family, and everybody knew how hard it was. So the student body was really on your side. So if anything, they would kill you with kindness at your performance technique class. And but it was wonderful. I met some lifelong friends there, and I'm so grateful for my time.
Who were some of the people you met there?
Max Lee.
Drums, right?
Yeah, drum. Yeah. Laura Resnick, who I'm
yeah.
collaborating with. James Butler Gray. Talia Butler Gray. Sina Etihad. So many people.
Yeah, so many people.
Yeah, sorry, there's
no, that's great.
I see their faces and I'm like matching their names.
You don't have to hit them all. We know there's lots more people than you would ever mention in one sitting. What about faculty? Who was on faculty while you were there?
Oh man, I was so lucky to study with Francois Houle. Such an incredible. He's in this contemporary music scene, and and such an incredible composer and world-class downbeats favorite clarinet player. Lawrence Mullerup, incredible local bassist. Of course, Sharon Minamoto, excellent piano player. I learned so much from her.
Was she your piano instructor?
She was.
While you were there? Oh, nice.
Yeah. I was very lucky. And who else coming to me? So many people. It was a long time ago now. It was like a decade.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. I wouldn't know that. But it sounds like maybe, because you said you were an adult student, did you go to school for something else before you went to VCC?
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Studied at UBC.
And it wasn't not for music. What did you study?
I studied psychology and religion, literature, and the arts.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's what you decided to do first, school wise, in terms of that, and then you went and you finished that, you graduated from there, and then later you decided to go to VCC.
That's true. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So what was your now? We'd be going back a little bit further than VCC even, but like what was your musical life like before VCC? Was it like a big part of your life then too, and then VCC like took it to another level? Like what was it like in that? Were you in this community already before that time, or like what was your musical life like before VCC then?
That's a really good question. Well, after and maybe during university, I found this trumpet that I had in my parents' house and locked away in a closet, and it's like, oh yeah, this thing. And I picked it up, started playing again. And the thing about the trumpet, because it's a monophonic instrument, you really do need to play with other people to have a lot of fun with it. And that was actually the opposite of my experience learning the piano growing up. It was a very solitary act for me. I didn't really play with others until my adulthood. And it was great. I love the oppositional aspect of the trumpet and the piano too. And actually there's a lot of people who play both instruments, I think, for that reason, like Brad Turner. Yeah. First person to come to mind. It really kind of rounded out the musical differences and made me a better musician in total. And so I became obsessed with it. It was obsession. I just became obsessed with playing with people. I was very motivated. I wasn't that good, but I didn't care. It was just fun. And I just became very obsessed. And I joined the Carnival Band, which is a local East Van processional favorite. They're super kooky and super fun. And it's one of those bands where it's a community project. So you're already in the band before you even come to a rehearsal or anything. You could just come to performances, and it was there that I gained a lot of performance experience and met a lot of lifelong friends as well. And some of them I play music with to this day, like Tim Sars, and it's so I became very obsessed, and I actually had to have an intervention with myself. I said, "Now, Róisín, you either go to music school now or you'll never go."
So you'd already graduated from UBC?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I had to give myself the dilemma. So that's what made me go.
Well, it's good thing it happened. The other project that I'm aware of that you've done before is Hildegard's Ghost. Mm-hmm. Was that started out of VCC for you with like VCC people?
That's right. Yeah.
Is that still active?
Not so much these days. I'm kind of putting my efforts more into this new trio, but I absolutely am always inspired by the sound of the harp. Alice Coltrane is a huge influence, and people who play the piano like a harp and the harp like a piano. It's always I know that John Coltrane was very enamored with the harp as well, and kind of like you can be, and I'm also interested in a lot of like guitar playing from like West Africa that sound like the kora, and muted guitar sounding things that sound like the harp is infinitely inspiring, and timbrally just jiggles a resonance within me.
Yeah. I figured, because I know that the first, what I think is the first Hildegard's Ghost album came out in 2014. So that sounds like it would have been around the time that you finished at VCC or while you were at VCC. And a lot of those, I think the lineup changed too. Like some of the people in that project changed over time. But I think some of the people in that project like don't live here anymore, or they've gone to other places. So I figured, yeah, it might be inactive for that reason.
Definitely. I mean, actually, it was great that I achieved my dream band, which was Lyle Hopkins on bass and Sky Brooks on drums, in addition to Elisa Thorne on harp. Like you said, Sky doesn't live here in Vancouver anymore, and Lyle doesn't play bass as much anymore as well. So it was great also just to have the rotating chair for a while, because it was nice to play with lots of different people.
Yeah. So then you've got Beatings Are in the Body now, and then this trio with James and Dan. This is like your main project to go ahead with.
That's true. And I also like to do some like lounge or like more like singing, club music, or music that I think people want to listen to in a bar or something. With Andrew Smith and Russell Schulberg and Paul Townsend. Working with that crew for that, and I like to kind of stay alive with some solo piano as well. Just keep the repertoire fresh in the fingers. Yeah.
When did you start singing?
Actually, right before the pandemic started, I had a regular gig at Poorhouse. And it wasn't actually my idea even, but I got the gig because I knew somebody that I was in a choir with. And they were like, hey, you sing, right? You should try singing. And I was like, oh, maybe you're right. And when I started, it was like flexing a muscle that hadn't been used before. I felt like I had to relearn the instrument, because all of a sudden, my left hand was bass, my right hand was chords, and my voice was the melody, which I'm not used to.
Add another layer on top of the cake.
Definitely. But it was cool. Once I kind of got used to how you puppeteer that, it kind of worked out.
So you hadn't been like singing or performing at all really before that? You were playing trumpet, you were playing piano, but not really.
Yeah, just in like choral groups, really. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Because you said you got that from somebody you knew through a choir. But in terms of having to take the reins and like go through sets of music by yourself,
yeah, it's very liberating once you go, because then you can chord through anything and just add some vocals, and it's great. Yeah, it's a lot easier actually.
So for this trio, you also working towards some sort of recorded project as well, or is it strictly live?
With
James and Dan.
Oh yeah, now there's an idea. That's a Canada Council grant in the making.
Well, the deadline would have been recently, so if you're planning on getting that, you've probably already applied as of the time that we're talking.
Okay, well, I didn't this time.
No worries.
But I would love to. It would be a very special thing to record with those two for sure. I think I'd want to like write some original tunes just for them or for us. So that's a great idea. Thank you for that.
Well, you could trace it back to here, a year and a half from now, when the news breaks out or whatever, that you've hit that step, that this is where you got the idea, and then I won't have to ask you about it. Then we'll already know. We'll already have something to go to. I feel like you did mention that you went to VCC like about a decade-ish ago. That's for me. That's my entire memory in this community. Like I wasn't around before that, really. So I don't have as much of a view on this as you would. Knowing that you were already involved in different ways and stuff before VCC, you got a bit more information there. So I'm curious how you feel about this, because in the Rhythm Changes life now, day to day, I'm always telling younger people out there right now, younger than me, that there's so much more going on now than there was for me 10 years ago, I would say. Now, I think anybody can tell that in this particular moment right now, if they've even been around for just 1 year, they feel like there's more going on now than there was a year ago, because there's so much going on right now. Just the variety and the number of different venues that people are trying things at is huge. It's way more than what it would have been at different times. For me, it's super obvious that it's more than 10 years ago, because 10 years ago was right around the time that I tried going to CAP. I went to CAP for 1 year. And right around that time, there were what seems in retrospect like very few venues. There were a couple of them that I suspect you would have played at. Like one of them that comes to mind is Merge. Merge seems to me as like a reminder of that time for me, like a DIY space where the improvisers played, very kind of off the radar. There weren't that many ways you could find out about things like that back then either. So even if there were a lot of venues, you maybe didn't know as much. Right now, there's a little bit more visibility. People are posting about stuff all the time. There's so much going on. There's certainly for me more going on in 2023 than there was in 2013. You've got a couple more years longer view than that. You've been involved for a long time. How do you feel about that, about the amount of stuff that's going on right now, about the tempo or the mood of the community, like just in general? What do you think about that sort of stuff?
Oh, I like that. The tempo, the community. Yeah, I mean, there's people with their fingers on the pulse, and there are people who are pumping the blood through the system.
Yeah.
Like I got to mention Tim Reinhardt here because, wow, I don't even know how one person can go to that many shows in a given week, let alone put them all on himself with help, I'm sure, with collaborators. But such an instigator and invigorator in the scene, and I really appreciate people who put the time and the effort into community. There's also like many organizations, and I think Vancouver is quite rich in the amount of nonprofit organizations, like Coastal Jazz, for example, Now Society, Music on Main, just to name a few off the top of my head. And there's people like Diane Cadota who are like tirelessly doing all the paper pushing and the planning to make all this amazing music happen, and managing people. I mentioned Amelie earlier. People like that who are kind of behind the scenes, but also like creating the background, the backdrop for people to witness things. And it takes a collective effort, I think, to make a DIY space happen. And it's becoming harder and harder in this town. Space is a very political issue. Everybody that I know and talk to has been evicted from their place, and rent is skyrocketing. I don't know how people afford anything. I don't know how I afford anything. So it's definitely something that's working against us. But there are, just like Mr. Rogers says, look for the people who are helping. There's always somebody helping. And it's just been my ethos, my philosophy, that community is, you're nothing without community. And I just have the utmost respect for people who are highly contributing.
Yeah. So do you feel like we're cresting upwards or something? Like the amount of that stuff is higher now than maybe it was in past years that you would have seen? Because I feel like maybe, that is true more so than like 10 years ago. So for me, do you feel like we're getting stronger in that respect?
Yeah, I think for every venue the closest one opens, it's something that you need to remember when you're feeling sad about, oh, I miss that place. Oh, the couch was so comfy. There are people who even like venues with pianos. It's a rarity, but they exist, and it takes some effort to maintain a piano and to like get the piano there. So those are special things when you can find them, and they're around. Places like for example, the Libra Room, that was like a mainstay in the scene for a long time, was on Commercial Drive, and I had live music every day, maybe even like 2 or 3 acts a day. Yeah,
usually like with Bruno Hubert playing first and then somebody else playing after. Yeah,
and when that left, it was kind of like a hole in the community. But then, sure enough, just a couple blocks later, months, whatever,
space and time,
a new venue, which I think is now called Super Soto, kind of opened up, and that's been having live music and a little bit more like lively groups, but small kind of like chamber groups playing there nightly, which is awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it can be, both things can be true at the same time. Like, yeah, some of the conditions can be harder now than they were 10 years ago or 15 years ago. But it can also be true, despite that there is a lot going on right now and that we're stronger in some sort of way that you can feel when you see how much stuff is going on out there and how many different things people are trying. So it's really kind of heartening to think about it that way, I guess.
Yeah, I think you have to, because you can sit around being nostalgic for places that aren't there anymore and you just feel bad.
Yeah. And everybody's got every generation or every group of people has their own place that went away in their time and that they get to think about later, right? So it's always going to happen. You're right about that.
Definitely. And then you can look back in history and be like, remember the tangent years? Those were great.
That's exactly what I was going to say. That was my place. Yeah, for sure.
Definitely.
Yeah. But if we were going to lose that venue, there would be no better time than the current time, because there's so many other venues and other things that are new that are being tried right now. So it's interesting.
Definitely. And behind the venues are some very important people that are making things happen.
Yeah, absolutely. And we owe it to them. And then they and us, we all owe it to you and the other musicians too, right? Like, I think that's what they would all say as well, is that they're able to do what they do because of all the musicians who are willing to go in there and do it with them, right? So
that's just them being humble, though.
There's truth to it. There's definitely truth to it. So when, I don't know, have you also, depending on how you look at it, had to or gotten to like play as a side person with like other things, like in popular genres or all genres as well? Have you ended up doing much of that as well?
Yeah,
okay,
I love it. It's great. You don't have to prepare so much of charts and things like that. It's a different kind of administration. What I love about it is that it's all about the music, right? You like, your job is to show up on time and play music and make sure that it sounds as good as you can make it sound. When you're the band leader, there's a lot more going on. You're hosting, which is a huge energetic responsibility. You're making sure that everybody has everything they need, like on a timeline that is best for everyone. So you need to get the charts out to everybody well in advance. You have to organize rehearsals if you're lucky enough to have one. And if you're not, you had better make sure your charts are easy to read. And you just like, you have to foresee everything. But when you're a side person, I just love that the focus is on the music and the social collaboration, making sure that it's a good hang.
Yeah. So when you are a leader, or when you're working with your friends and colleagues in this creative scene, a lot of it revolves around the stuff that has come up already, things like Canada Council grants or other project-based grants, or like the people who are working behind the scenes who facilitate a lot of the projects that get launched and that happen, right? As a side person, did you ever have to deal with like the more commercial or pop music side of that, or the vagaries of, releasing music out onto streaming and trying to promote like popular genres music and what that's like nowadays? Do you ever have to deal with that too, or do you spend most of your time like working within the more creative music side of things, where it's like more about grants and local stuff? Like, have you had to reckon with the current state of the popular music industry at all, is what I'm wondering.
I see what you're saying. Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know. Mostly with my own releases, I've had to like kind of dabble a little bit. It's one of those things where like, artists don't like Spotify for a very good reason, but you want to make your music accessible to people, and it's the best way to get people to hear it. So it's one of those things where you just kind of you make a choice, right? Some people choose to go with streaming places like Tidal that actually treat people, their artists, a lot better. But commercially speaking, not so much. I mean, I'm open to it, but I haven't.
You haven't had to.
Haven't crossed that bridge, yeah. But I've definitely done like side work for like all kinds of genres before. It really just depends on the gig.
Yeah. One thing, the only thing I want to bring into that, I think, then to what we were just talking about with like the amount of activity and the resiliency of the community or whatnot, is something that I hear all the time from artists in all genres and popular genres. It's sort of like a buzzword, but it's a phrase that they end up using and then not really defining to describe how they feel about being here in this city and the different challenges of that is I'll hear from those kind of people all the time, like, Vancouver is tough because there's no infrastructure here, or there's not as much infrastructure here. And I've tried to like nail down exactly what that people mean when they say that for years. I haven't really, but I hear them say that all the time. It's kind of like a buzzword, meme word that goes around, people saying that there's not enough infrastructure here. I think there's some obvious things that you could read into that. One of them is just geography. I know that from the years that I tried to tour with my folk band, right? Like you just have to go much further to begin your tour when you're here than when you're back east. Almost any other place in the country, really. This is one of the most challenging geographical places for that. Another thing they probably mean is that it feels harder if you're a pop artist of some sort to imagine like a ramp of other people noticing you and giving you resources, like maybe getting signed to a label or working with some industry professionals who you think are supposed to help you out. I say all that because I think with what we were just talking about with the strong points of our community here, I feel like for the specific community we're in, we actually have a lot of infrastructure, if that's what they mean by that. And you said like the community is rich with something. I feel like that's one of the things that we are actually rich with, and that we do have a lot of creative music infrastructure here. Would you agree with that?
I would, yeah. And the thing I like about it is the like, maybe it's not the best word, but entrepreneurial spirit.
Yeah.
Which isn't about like, I say entrepreneurial, but it's not about like making money. It's about sharing resources with people. So like people like Meredith Bates, who create like a nonprofit to bring about more improvised music to the community, and that takes a lot of work to organize, to like have a board and to register as a nonprofit society. There's steps that you can take if you want to go down that road. But it is a commitment. It's something that I respect a lot, knowing a little bit about the nonprofit side of things from my time working at Western Front. You start to kind of see that it really just takes some committed folks to start something and get people on board. And it's wonderful to see that the people are still, stepping into that responsibility and that role.
Yeah. When did you work at Western Front?
2014 to 19.
Oh, wow. For a solid number of years.
Yeah.
What did you do?
I was a new music administrative assistant.
Nice. So you were involved in booking people or in helping run the shows that would happen there and curate the events or
That's right.
Events?
Yeah. Before I came on board, the new music department was a team of one, but it was, it's an artist-run center, so they definitely would support each other. So the curator I worked intimately with is named DB Boyko. So I learned a lot about the admin world and just basically how artists do things. And it was I was fresh out of music school, so I kind of I took that route for a while just so I can, contribute to my community and also like open my eyes to the international community. And it was a wonderful experience. I learned so much, and it was very, very cool to host people that would come from all over the world to do a cool experimental show. And it was, and also to invigorate the local community.
Do you currently have another position that's like that? Or are you currently doing different things work-wise than that? Are you still working a kind of position that is similar to what you did there at this point?
Yes, I'm CEO of Róisín Adams Incorporated. No, I was kidding. No, I'm just freelancing at the moment, and teaching and living the artist life, which,
Awesome.
Admittedly was not the best time in the world to start doing that. At the
teaching
of the
lessons,
pandemic.
like teaching piano?
Well, it was just like when I'm like right before the pandemic started, I was like, and now I'm an independent artist.
Yeah.
But it's good. We're resilient. We survive like cockroaches.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Teaching piano lessons and stuff like that, or teaching school. Those teaching could be either one.
Lessons, so one-on-one, yeah.
Nice.
I'm lucky. I love it.
Yeah. Well, this has been so much fun. I hope you have a fantastic trip to Vancouver Island.
Thank you.
It was a special weekend that we got to take part in together at Ironworks.
Sure
and
was.
Yeah, wishing you all the best. This was a lot of fun.
Thanks for joining the show. Me.
Thank you for listening to today's episode of the Rhythm Changes podcast. If you enjoyed it, make sure you become a member for free today at rhythmchanges.ca. You'll get the free weekly email from me every Tuesday morning featuring gigs and an artist event recording from our scene. I will be back at you with some new episodes of the show at a time to be determined. There's a great back catalog for you to check out if you just happened upon this podcast. But until next time, have a great day.